Plot summary of The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Fyodor Pavlovich Karamazov is an old buffoon from the town of Skotoprigonivsk who has been married twice. He is the father of Dmitry, Ivan, and Alexei, who are his three real boys. Fyodor is also likely the father of Smerdyakov, his cook and lackey, because he had a short affair with Stinking Lizaveta, a holy fool and homeless wanderer with the nickname Stinking Lizaveta. Fyodor's sexual desires didn't go away after he got married and had a child. He often had orgies at home, spent most of his time drunk, and forgot about his three kids, who were taken care of by his helper, Grigory Vasilyevich. The three Karamazov boys go in different directions, but they all want to be different from their father. Dmitry joins the army, Ivan becomes a well-known intellectual and journalist, and Alexei joins a monastery and learns from the respected Zasama, the elder. The Karamazovs go to the temple one day. Pyotr Alexandrovich Myasov, who is Dmitry's cousin, is with them. Zasama is also often visited by women from both the lower and top classes. Madame Koklakov takes her paralyzed daughter Lise to the elder in the hopes that the blessings will help the girl walk again. Alexei is afraid that the Karamazovs will make him look bad, and his fears come true. Fyodor acts like an idiot to get Zasama to like him. This makes Myasov angry, and since he doesn't like Fyodor, they fight. Fyodor reveals that Dmitry broke up with his wealthy fiancée Katerina Ivanovna and moved in with a courtesan named Grushenka, who is also Fyodor's love interest. This shows how hostile the family is. Mikhail Osipovich Rakitin, who is said to be Alexei's friend and Ivan's foe, thinks that Ivan Fyodorovich is trying to steal Katerina away from Dmitry. Katerina is a beautiful, proud, and bossy girl whose pride comes from giving up things for herself. She offers herself to Dmitry after her father tries to kill himself so no one will find out he stole money from the government. She tells Dmitry that her sister, Agafya Ivanovna, told her that Dmitry would give Katerina $4,500 if she went to him and offered herself. Dmitry hands her a 5,000 ruble bill. Katerina goes to Moscow after her father dies. There, she joins the family of the widow of a general, whose two nieces, who were her closest heirs, have died. The widow gives Katerina 80,000 rubles as a gift. Katerina takes the $4,500 she asked Dmitry for and sends it to him with a letter in which she says she wants to be his wife. Ivan, who is in Moscow, gets a 6-page letter from Dmitry explaining the situation and asking him to meet with Katerina to tell her why he can't marry her. Dmitry has already gone to Mokroy with Grushenka, using the money Katerina gave him for Agafya, which was 3,000 rubles. Katerina knows that Dmitry likes Grushenka, so she gave him the money to see if he would be ready to steal from her to be with another woman. Ivan falls in love when he meets Katerina in Moscow. Fyodor Pavlovich has promised Grushenka 3,000 rubles, which he puts in an envelope tied, according to Dmitry, with a red ribbon. In reality, the ribbon is pink. Fyodor tells Grushenka the amount because he hopes it will bring her back to him. Dmitry knows about the money, so he tells Alexei to ask their dad for it. He also wants Alexei to go to Katerina, with or without the $3,000 that Dmitry owes her, and tell her that he is bowing out, which means that he wants to leave her life in a good way. Alexei goes to see Katerina at dusk. He doesn't know it, but Grushenka is also there. Due to Grushenka's promise to give up Dmitry, it looks like the two very different women have become friends. This turns out to be a lie, which is shown by the fact that Grushenka won't kiss Katerina's hand and talks about Katerina's short stint as a prostitute. Alexei goes back to the abbey after telling Dmitry about the fight. He looks at a letter from Lise in which she tells him she loves him. When Alexei goes to see his father one day, his father says that he won't let Dmitry have Grushenka. When Alexei goes outside, he sees 6 schoolchildren throwing rocks at a boy they call a scoundrel. The boy, whose name is Ilyesha, used a penknife to stab an older friend and student named Kolya Krasotkin. Alexei tries to help the boy who is alone, but the boy turns on him and bites his hand. Ilyesha resents Alexei for being a Karamazov. The boy saw Dmitry pull his father, Captain Snegiryov out of a tavern by his beard to make him look bad. Dmitry went after Snegiryov because the captain had asked Grushenka to take over Dmitry's promissory notes on behalf of Fyodor. Grushenka could then sue Dmitry for his bills and put him in jail because he couldn't pay. Alexei then goes to see the Koklakovs, where he tells Lise that when he leaves the order, they will get married. The living room is where Katerina is. She gives Alexei 200 shiny rubles to give to Snegiryov to make up for the attack on the captain, who is poor. Alexei goes to the captain's house to give him the money, and that's where he meets Ilyesha, who is 9 years old. When Alexei and Ivan talk about God at a bar, they get to know each other better quickly. Ivan is an atheist who doesn't believe that people can love each other without conditions. To show Alexei what he means, he reads him a poem he wrote called The Grand Inquisitor. God comes into the world in the story. He does miracles, and then an inquisitor puts him in jail. Through questioning, the inquisitor finds out who the old man really is. The inquisitor sets the visitor free and sends him away, telling him that the people will never accept him if the inquisitor doesn't want them to. Ivan says goodbye to his brother Alexei after telling him this story. He thinks they won't see each other for another 6 or 7 years. Soon after that, Smerdyakov tells Ivan that Dmitry could kill his father over the 3,000 rubles that Fyodor promised to Grushenka. He suggests that Ivan go to Chermashia instead of Moscow, which is closer to home. Fyodor wants Ivan to go there and find out if Lyagavy, the traitor, is really interested in buying a woodlet for 11,000 rubles. The task also gives Fyodor a reason to get rid of Ivan while he waits for Grushenka. Zasama is dying back at the convent. Alexei goes into the old man's cell and writes down what he says about his life. Zasama talks about how he was born to a wealthy father and had an older brother named Markel who died when he was a child. Zasama chose to join a monastery after he insulted a rival in love and almost started a fight. Zasama dies after telling the story of his life. In the abbey, his body is in a coffin. Alexei is waiting for a miracle while some of the monks talk about the dead elder and doubt his image as a holy man. When the corpse starts to stink, showing that the elder is just a regular person, it proves what the others already thought, and Alexei loses hope. He leaves and runs into Rakitin, who is surprised and happy that Alexei has suddenly lost faith. He offers to take the young monk with him to see Grushenka. It turns out that she gave Rakitin 25 rubles to bring Alexei to her so that she could charm him. This is her way of getting back at Alexei for taking his eyes off of her in the street. She shows sadness when she hears that Zasama has died, which shocks Alexei. He sees that Grushenka isn't as bad as he thought. He's glad that she feels sorry for him, and she's glad that he doesn't think so badly of her. They both agree that each has given the other an onion. Alexei dreams that the older Zasama comes to him when he goes back to the monastery. Zasama once told him to leave the convent and to sojourn in the world, but the dream makes him want to do just that. Dmitry is still trying to figure out how to pay Katerina back the 3,000 rubles he owes her. He thinks about going to court to get the land his father gave him. He is so desperate that he offers Samsonov, who is Grushenka's patron, 3,000 rubles to take over his rights on the land. Samsonov tells Dmitry to take the offer to Lyagavy in Sukhoi Posyolok instead. Dmitry goes, but Lyagavy is drunk and can't talk business. Mitya gives his guns to Pyotr Ilyich Perkotin as a pawn, and then he goes to Madame Koklakov to borrow 3,000 rubles. Madame Koklakov hates Dmitry, and she wants Katerina to break up with him so she can date Ivan instead. She says that Dmitry could make a lot more than $3,000 by going to the mines to look for gold. When he asks again for the $3,000 he needs right now, she tells him he doesn't have it. He leaves in a rage. He then meets Samsonov's helper, who tells him that Grushenka was just at Fyodor's house. Dmitry runs to the widow Morozov's house, where Grushenka lives, and asks her maid, Fenya, to tell him where Grushenka is. Fenya says that she has no idea. Dmitry grabs a metal pestle from the table before he leaves and runs to his father's house. Grigory wakes up and realizes he forgot to lock the garden gate. He sees that his master's window is open and that someone is running in the dark towards the fence. Grigory chases the figure, but he gets hit in the head. Grigory's head is still bleeding when Dmitry climbs back into the yard. He doesn't have time to help the old man, though, so he runs off to find Grushenka. He goes back to the house of the widow Morozov. The head porter tells him that Grushenka left for Mokroy 2 hours ago to meet the Polish officer she's meant to be engaged to. Dmitry sees Perkatin again and asks him for the guns back. Perkatin thinks something is wrong when he sees blood on Dmitry's hands and face. Still, Perkatin gives back the pistols, and Dmitry goes to Mokroy to see Grushenka for what he thinks will be the last time because he wants to kill himself. When he gets to Plastanov's inn, he says hello to Trifon Borisovich, the owner. There, he meets Grushenka, Pyotr Fomich Kalganov, and 2 Polish soldiers, called Pani. Grushenka's boyfriend is Pan Musilovich. Dmitry plays cards with them and loses money, but it is later found out that the men were using a deck that had been marked. Dmitry offers Pan Musilovich 3,000 rubles to go away. He says he will give Pan 500 rubles right away and the rest in town. Pan Musilovich says no, so he leaves Grushenka and says she is wanton and shameless for being with both guys. Dmitry, Grushenka, and Kalganov get drunk now that the pie is gone. Dmitry and Grushenka say they love each other and promise to be with each other. When the police commissioner comes in and arrests Dmitry for killing his father, this beautiful scene is ruined. Around this time, Ilyesha dies from illness. Kolya Krasotkin finds him and gives him a small gun as a gift. Kolya also brings his dog, which he says is Ilyesha's old dog Zuchka. Ilyesha thought Zuchka was dead because he tricked the dog into eating a piece of bread stuck with a pin, which he learned from Smerdyakov. Kolya also makes friends with Alexei, who is the only person Kolya respects because the monk treats the 13-year-old boy like an adult. Alexei, Katerina, and Ivan come up with 3,000 rubles to pay Fedyokovich, a well-known defense lawyer, to defend Dmitry while he is in jail. Ivan, on the other hand, feels bad about wanting his father to die. Ivan asks Smerdyakov if he killed Fyodor, and he says yes. He tells how he did it, showing that he's not the idiot everyone thinks he is. Then, Smerdyakov gives Ivan the money he stole, which was 3,000 rubles. Ivan demands that they go to the prosecutor the next day and confess. However, the next day, Ivan gets brain fever and hallucinates a conversation with a man who turns out to be the devil. Alexei says later that Smerdyakov killed himself by hanging himself. Still, Ivan is determined to tell the truth. Ivan says that Smerdyakov is guilty at Dmitry's hearing. Everyone in court thinks he's sick and that he's just trying to protect Dmitry. Alexei also speaks up and says that Dmitry is innocent. The people is not impressed either. Katerina also speaks in court and says that she gave Dmitry the 3,000 rubles. She shows the letter that Dmitry wrote to his father when he was drunk and angry, saying that he was going to kill his father. This is the same letter that Ivan called mathematical proof of his brother's guilt, and the world agrees. Ippolit Kirillovich, the lawyer, and Fedyokovich both say their final words. Kirillovich uses the Karamazov case as a metaphor for the moral fall of Russia. Fedyokovich tells a story that says the 3,000 rubles that were promised to Grushenka never existed and that Fyodor was never really Dmitry's father. At 1 hour after midnight, the jury goes away to decide. After an hour, they come back and say that Dmitry Fyodorovich Karamazov is guilty. Ivan got ready for the chance that Dmitry would be found guilty before he got sick. He put aside almost 10,000 rubles from his fortune to help Dmitry get away. He gives the money to Katerina, who is taking care of Ivan by moving him in with her. Dmitry wants to go to the American West with Grushenka. He thinks that they would both miss their homes too much if they stayed away. Alexei goes to the funeral of Ilyasha after he gets out of Dmitry's cell. 2 days after Dmitry got his sentence, the boy died. Alexei is late, so the people carrying the body to the church do it without him. Alexei sees that Ilyesha has almost no smell coming from her body. It's the miracle he had hoped for from Zasama, proving that his former teacher was right to think that children are good by nature. It also backs up Alexei's view that people are basically good. Alexei's faith in the future is restored by Ilyesha's death, and Ilyesha's old schoolmates, especially Krasotkin, are inspired to work towards kindness and goodwill.
About the author. Dr. Mikhail Dostoevsky and Maria Fyodorovna had 6 children, and Fyodor was the second one. Dr. Dostoevsky was from a small Lithuanian village called Dostoyevo, which is now in the Belarusian district of Pinsk. His wife, Maria Fyodorovna, was the daughter of a wealthy Moscow businessman. The family was poor, so Fyodor lived in a small flat on the grounds of the hospital where his father worked when he was young. But the Dostoevskys still had 6 workers working for them. Dostoevsky always spoke very warmly and lovingly about his mother, but not as much about his father. His father had sadness and a nervous disorder, which his son Fyodor would later get. Fyodor had his first fit of epilepsy when he was 9 years old. He had seizures from epilepsy from time to time throughout his life, and he used this to help him come up with some of his characters, like Smerdyakov from the Brothers Karamazov. Both Fyodor and his brother Mikhail were taught at home at first. The Dostoevskys were adamant that their kids get a good religious and secular education, especially French lessons, which were important for moving up in society. Maria died of tuberculosis, so their father sent Fyodor and Mikhail to the Academy of Military Engineering in St. Petersburg to become military engineers. After his father died, Fyodor Dostoevsky became a lieutenant and left the engineering school the next year. In the same year, he finished translating Eugenie Grandet by Honoré de Balzac. After he got out of the war, he began to write stories. Poor Folk, a short book told through letters, came out in 1845 and was a big hit. Dostoevsky joined the Petrushevsky Circle, a group of thinkers who liked utopian socialism, to show that he was against serfdom. Dostoevsky and other members of the circle were put to death when Tsar Nicholas I went after them to stop political dissent. Dostoevsky's sentence was changed to 4 years of exile in Siberia, where he lived in small, bug-infested apartments. He was then forced to serve in the Siberian regiment for 5 years as a private and then as a lieutenant in a company stationed at a fortress in what is now Kazakhstan. During the time he spent in jail, he became suspicious of intellectuals and what he saw as their disrespect for poor people. Dostoevsky's most important works were released after he moved back to St. Petersburg. These included Notes from the Underground, 1864, Crime and Punishment, 1866, The Idiot, 1868–1869, The Possessed, 1872, and The Brothers Karamazov, 1879–1880, which was his last novel. His first wife passed away in 1864. In 1867, he married the stenographer Anna Grigoryevna Snitkina. They had 4 children together, but only 2 of them lived to be adults. Dostoevsky died at his home in St. Petersburg of a hemorrhage not long after he finished writing The Brothers Karamazov.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.